So you think Canadian real estate is expensive, huh? Like you'll never own anything but houseplants and crippling mortgage debt expensive. Everyone's talking about Vancouver $1 million teardowns and Toronto shoebox condos, while you're here wondering if home ownership is just a fairy tale your parents made up. Well, buckle up, because there are still places in Canada where you can buy land for around $500 an acre. And no, we're not talking about tundra where your only neighbors are polar bears and regret. We're talking real dirt, with roads, with trees, in actual provinces that aren't just frozen wastelands 9 months a year. But before that, do me a favor, smash that like button like you're clearing brush off your future homestead, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video where we explore more hidden gems the real estate industry doesn't want you to know about. 1. Northwestern Saskatchewan, where wheat meets wilderness and your wallet actually wins. Coming in at number 5 is Northwestern Saskatchewan. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Saskatchewan? Isn't that just flat forever? The province everyone forgets exists until they're driving across it wondering if the horizon is broken? Well, parts of it are aggressively flat, but up north things get interesting. We're talking boreal forest that stretches for days, lakes that actually have fish in them, walleye that'll make you rethink store-bought anything, and land prices that'll make you do a double take and check if there's a typo. According to Farm Credit Canada's 2024 report, average farmland in northwestern Saskatchewan ranges from $1,700 to $5,000 per acre. Now, that's the nice stuff. The cultivated land, the parcels near towns, the properties that make sense on paper. But here's the kicker. If you dig deeper into the unorganized territories, the remote parcels, the raw bushland that's not prime wheat-growing territory, you can find acreage for $500 to $800 per acre. Sometimes even lower if the seller's motivated and you're not picky about road access. We're talking about areas near Meadow Lake, Big River, Loon Lake, and the Northwestern Corridor where civilization is more of a polite suggestion than a guarantee. These aren't subdivisions. These aren't hobby farms with white picket fences. These are legitimate wilderness parcels where your property survey might include the phrase, "bearing tree is a large spruce approximately here-ish." This isn't southern Saskatchewan where canola fields stretch to infinity and you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. This is bush country, dense forest with trees that have been growing since before Canada was even a country. Wildlife that actually exists in numbers that'll make you nervous. Not zoo animals, but real, wild. This is their home and you're the visitor animals. And enough space to lose yourself. Literally. GPS becomes a suggestion. Cell towers are urban legends. Your sense of direction becomes crucial unless you enjoy unplanned camping trips. You want privacy? You got it. Your nearest neighbor might be a moose named Gerald, and he won't complain about your late-night campfires, questionable music choices, or the fact that you're building a chicken coop that looks like it was designed by someone who's never seen a chicken. Black bears wander through like they're checking on the neighborhood. Wolves howl at night, and instead of being scary, it becomes the soundtrack to your existence. The land here is raw in the truest sense. It's not cleared, it's not tilled, it hasn't been manicured or managed or made into something Instagram-friendly. This is nature as it exists, messy, wild, beautiful in a way that doesn't translate to photos. You're buying potential wrapped in pine needles and possibility. Hunting camps? Absolutely. Deer, moose, elk, and black bears are abundant. Off-grid homesteads? Hell yes. Solar works great when you're not surrounded by buildings. And wood heat is literally everywhere you look. A place to hide when the world gets too loud? That's the specialty here. This is where you go when you've had enough of traffic jams, HOA meetings, and neighbors who call bylaw enforcement because your grass is 3 millimeters too tall. Now, let's talk reality. This is remote, like, you better know how to change a tire because CAA isn't coming out here quickly remote. The growing season is short, so forget about your avocado toast garden dreams. Winters are brutal. We're talking minus 30 Celsius on a good day, minus 40 if Mother Nature's feeling spicy. And infrastructure? What infrastructure? You're hauling your own water, setting up solar panels, and praying your generator doesn't die in February. But here's what makes northwestern Saskatchewan legit. It's accessible. There are actual roads, gravel, yes, but roads nonetheless. Towns like Meadow Lake have supplies, hardware stores, and even a Tim Hortons if you're desperate for mediocre coffee and a sense of normalcy. You're not completely off the grid unless you want to be. Property taxes are laughably low. We're talking a couple $100 a year for 40 acres. No HOA Karen asking about your fence color. No bylaw officer measuring your grass height. Just you, the trees, and the occasional wolf howl at 2 a.m. to remind you that you've officially made it to the wilderness. The catch is, access can be seasonal. Some roads turn into mud wrestling arenas come spring thaw. Cell service is a myth. Your phone becomes a very expensive paperweight. And forget about high-speed internet unless you're willing to sell a kidney for Starlink. But if you want cheap Canadian land with actual livability, Northwestern Saskatchewan delivers. It's not glamorous, but it's real, it's affordable, and it's yours. 2. Northern Manitoba Interlake region. Number 4 takes us to Northern Manitoba's Interlake region. Now before you click away thinking Manitoba is just Winnipeg and mosquitoes the size of small birds, hear me out. The Interlake, the area between Lake Winnipeg and Lake Manitoba, has some seriously cheap land if you know where to look. We're talking about areas north of Gimli, around places like Arborg, Riverton, and further up toward the unorganized territories. Farm Credit Canada data shows average farmland in the Interlake region sits around $3,200 per acre. But venture into the truly remote stuff, the bush lots, the seasonal access properties, the land that's more forest than field, and you're looking at $500 to $900 per acre. These are parcels that real estate agents whisper about, the ones that don't make it to fancy listings because they require actual work. No cleared fields here, just trees, swamps, and enough wildlife to start your own nature documentary. Manitoba's Interlake is weird in the best way. It's agricultural enough to have infrastructure nearby, but wild enough to feel isolated. You've got lakes everywhere. Fishing isn't a hobby here, it's a lifestyle. Pike, walleye, perch. If you can't catch dinner, you're not trying. The land itself is a mixed bag. Some areas are rock and swamp, others are decent bush with potential for clearing. You're not growing corn here, but you could absolutely run a small livestock operation, set up a hunting camp, or build that off-grid cabin you've been sketching on napkins for 3 years. Let's talk about the downsides because they're real. Mosquitoes. Dear God, the mosquitoes. We're not talking about annoying little buzzes. We're talking about clouds of blood-sucking aerial piranhas that make you question your life choices every June. Bring industrial-strength bug spray or just accept your new existence as a walking buffet. Flooding is a thing. The Red River has opinions, and those opinions often involve turning your property into a temporary lake. Do your homework on flood zones unless you're secretly hoping to invest in waterfront property the hard way. Winters are Saskatchewan-level cold. -30 is standard. Your car won't start, your pipes will freeze, and you'll discover muscles you didn't know you had from shoveling snow. But hey, at least you'll have plenty of firewood. Infrastructure is spotty. Some areas have hydro, some don't. Water wells can be hit or miss, literally. You might drill and find crystal clear water, or you might find water that tastes like Satan's bath. Cell service exists in populated areas but vanishes once you hit the back roads. But here's why the Interlake works. Community. Manitoba towns are tight-knit. Your neighbors will help you out, even if your nearest neighbor is 10 kilometers away. There's a scrappy, we're all in this together vibe that's missing in more populated areas. Property taxes are reasonable, a few hundred annually for a decent-sized lot, and you're only an hour or two from Winnipeg if you need civilization or emergency dental work. The Interlake isn't for everyone. It's for people who don't mind bugs, who understand that seasonal access means bring a helicopter in April, and who are okay with winters that feel like the earth is actively trying to kill you. But if you want cheap land, fishing, and space to breathe, the Interlake's got your back. Before we dive into the top 3, remember to hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you want to become a real estate expert. Trust me, your next dinner party conversation just got way more interesting. 3. Northern Ontario Unorganized Townships. At number 3, we're heading to Northern Ontario's unorganized townships. And yes, unorganized is the official term, which should tell you everything you need to know about governance and municipal services here. Spoiler alert, there aren't any. We're talking about areas near Thunder Bay, Timmins, and Cochrane, places where the Canadian Shield meets the boreal forest and decides that human civilization is optional. According to recent land reports, parcels in these unorganized townships go for $500 to $833 per acre. Some listings show 40-acre lots going for under $25,000. That's less than a used pickup truck. These aren't subdivisions with streetlights and paved roads. These are wild, rugged, beautiful patches of forest where bears outnumber humans, and your property line is marked by trees, not fences. We're talking about the real Ontario, the one that exists beyond cottage country and Tim Hortons locations. Northern Ontario is stunning. Rock outcrops, pine forests, crystal clear lakes, and silence so thick you can hear your own thoughts for the first time in years. You want views? You've got them. You want privacy? Your nearest human might be so far away you'll forget what other people look like. The land comes with mineral and timber rights in many cases, which is rare. You own what's above ground and what's below. Find gold? It's yours. Decent timber? Log away. That kind of ownership freedom is almost extinct in modern Canada. Now let's get real about the challenges. Unorganized townships mean no municipal services, no garbage pickup, no snow plowing, no bylaw enforcement, and definitely no emergency services rushing to your aid. You're on your own. That creek on your property, that's your water supply. That forest, that's your heating source. Welcome to 1890. Access is the big one. Some parcels have year-round road access, gravel, rough but passable. Others have seasonal access, which is code for you're hiking in or waiting until the ground freezes. Check access carefully unless you're into extreme land ownership. Cell service is non-existent. Satellite internet is your only option and it'll cost you. Hydro, bring your own solar panels and generators. Propane becomes your best friend. You'll learn to live by the sun because when it gets dark at 4:30 p.m. in January, you'll understand why your ancestors went to bed at dusk. Wildlife is everywhere. Bears, wolves, moose, lynx. You're living in their home, not the other way around. That's amazing if you respect nature. That's terrifying if you're used to urban living where the most dangerous animal is an aggressive raccoon. But here's why Northern Ontario's unorganized townships are incredible. Freedom. No building permits for most areas. Want a tiny house? Build it. Want a yurt? Go for it. Want to live in a converted school bus while you figure out life? Nobody's stopping you. The lack of governance is both the blessing and the curse. Property taxes in unorganized townships are shockingly low, often under $300 annually. You're not paying for services you're not getting, which makes sense. The catches are significant. You need to be self-sufficient. You need skills, or the willingness to learn them fast. You need backup plans for your backup plans. And you need to be okay with isolation because winter up here doesn't just arrive. It moves in for 6 months and makes itself comfortable. But if you want raw, affordable Canadian wilderness where you can build whatever life you imagine, Northern Ontario's unorganized townships are the real deal. It's not easy, but it's honest, and it's yours. 4. Eastern New Brunswick rural parishes. Number 2 takes us to the Maritimes, specifically the rural parishes of Eastern New Brunswick, areas around Miramichi, Restigouche County, and the lesser-known corners where the forest meets the Atlantic influence. New Brunswick doesn't get enough credit. While everyone's obsessing over Nova Scotia's coastline or PEI's potatoes, New Brunswick is sitting there with some of the most affordable land in Eastern Canada. According to Farm Credit Canada, the average farmland value in New Brunswick is around $2,900 per acre. But in the rural, undeveloped parcels, the stuff that's forest, not fields, you can find land for $500 to $1,200 per acre. We're talking about properties with road access, often with year-round accessibility, and actual communities nearby. Not ghost towns, but small maritime villages where people actually live and aren't just summer tourists. New Brunswick's rural land is diverse. Some parcels are pure forest, mature hardwoods perfect for lumber or firewood. Others have clearings, old fields, or mixed terrain. You've got rolling hills, not Saskatchewan flat. You've got rivers and streams, not desert dry. And you've got 4 actual seasons, not just winter and construction season. The climate is surprisingly mild compared to the prairies or northern Ontario. Sure, you get snow, but we're talking maritime snow, wet, heavy, and generally gone by April. Summers are gorgeous. Fall is peak New England-style leaf porn. Spring actually exists as a season, not just a 2-week window between frost and mosquitoes. Infrastructure is the hidden gem here. Many rural properties in New Brunswick have hydro connections or can get them relatively affordably. Wells are common and generally productive. Some areas even have internet, slow but existent. You're not completely off-grid unless you choose to be. The catch is, New Brunswick's economy is struggling. Jobs are scarce unless you're self-employed or working remotely. Towns are aging, young people leave for Alberta or Ontario, and what's left are diehards and retirees. That creates opportunity for cheap land, but it also means ghost town vibes in some areas. Property taxes vary wildly by parish. Some are reasonable, others make you wonder where the money's going since there's no visible infrastructure. Do your homework. Check tax rates before buying because what seems like a steal can become expensive fast. Acadian French is common in some areas. If you don't speak French, you'll survive, but you might feel like a linguistic tourist in your own country. That's more charming than problematic, but it's worth knowing. Maritime weather is moody. Fog, rain, and wind are regulars. If you need 300 days of sunshine, this isn't your spot. But if you like dramatic skies, cozy fires, and weather that keeps life interesting, New Brunswick delivers. Why New Brunswick works? Culture. Maritime hospitality is real. People wave on back roads. Neighbors help each other. There's a community spirit that's rare in modern Canada. Plus, you're close to the ocean. Not beachfront, but close enough that Atlantic lobster and fresh fish are part of life. The rural parishes offer space, affordability, and accessibility in a package that most of Canada can't match. You're not in the Arctic. You're not dealing with Saskatchewan winters. You're in a place where people have lived and thrived for generations, and land is still affordable because everyone else is chasing overpriced urban nightmares. If you want cheap Canadian land with maritime charm, real trees, and neighbors who aren't wolves, Eastern New Brunswick is your answer. 5. Northern Alberta Outer Peace Region. And finally, at number 1, we're going to Northern Alberta's Outer Peace Region. Not the Peace River Valley itself, that's getting pricier, but the outer edges, the remote townships, the areas where Alberta's agricultural belt gives way to boreal wilderness. According to FCC's 2024 report, average farmland in Alberta's Peace Region sits around $2,700 per acre, with the northern region averaging $4,000. But dig into the truly remote parcels, the ones near the Northwest Territories border, the unorganized areas, the bushland that's more wilderness than farmland, and you're looking at $500 to $1,000 per acre. This is Alberta's final frontier. It's where the prairies end and the north begins. It's wild, it's massive, and it's affordable in a way that the rest of Alberta hasn't been in decades. The Outer Peace Region is spectacular. You've got the boreal forest in full effect, spruce, pine, aspen, and wildlife that'll make you feel like you're on a nature documentary. Moose, elk, bears, wolves, and in some areas even caribou. The aurora borealis shows up regularly because you're far enough north that the sky puts on free shows. Land here is big. 40-acre parcels are standard. 80-acre lots aren't uncommon. And unlike southern Alberta, where every inch is spoken for, the Outer Peace has space. Real, actual, breathable space. The catches are northern Alberta catches. We're talking serious winters. -40 is not a typo. It's January. Your diesel gels, your car won't start without a block heater. And you learn real quick why Canadians are obsessed with remote starters and insulated everything. The growing season is short. If you're into farming, you're limited to hardy crops and short season varieties. But for hunting, trapping, or just existing in nature, it's paradise. Access varies wildly. Some areas have maintained gravel roads. Others have roads that are more accurately described as suggestions where a vehicle might theoretically go if conditions are perfect and you're feeling brave. Seasonal access is common, meaning spring thaw and fall mud seasons turn your property into an island. Services are minimal. You're hours from major towns. Fort Vermilion, High Level, and Manning are your supply hubs, and they're not exactly metropolitan centers. You're driving 2 hours for serious shopping, 4 hours for a hospital, and you'll learn to stock up like you're prepping for the apocalypse because you kind of are. But here's why the Outer Peace region tops this list. Potential. Alberta's north is opening up. Resource development, forestry, and tourism are growing. Land that's $500 an acre now might be $2,000 in 10 years. It's speculative, sure, but it's also Alberta, the province with oil money, conservative politics, and a history of boom cycles. Property taxes are low, while water is generally good. The community is tight-knit. Northerners look out for each other because up here you need to. And the freedom is real. No HOAs, no bylaws, no neighbors close enough to complain about anything. The Outer Peace is for serious people. People who can handle isolation, who have skills or are willing to learn them, who understand that self-sufficiency isn't a hobby, it's survival. But if you want the Canadian dream, land, space, freedom, and a shot at building something real, this is where it still exists. All right, before you liquidate your savings, tell your boss where they can shove their TPS reports and start Googling how to build a cabin with nothing but YouTube tutorials and misplaced confidence. We need to talk about the catch. Because yes, land at $500 an acre exists in Canada. It's real, it's available, it's sitting there waiting for someone brave, foolish, or desperate enough to claim it. But so are property taxes, hidden costs, and enough red tape to wrap a moose in bureaucratic confusion. First, access. Just because land is cheap doesn't mean you can physically reach it without a helicopter, a prayer, and possibly a signed waiver absolving the universe of responsibility for your choices. Check road access carefully. Is it year-round? Is it a maintained road or an ATV trail with delusions of grandeur? Some parcels are landlocked, meaning you'd need an easement or permission to cross someone else's property just to reach your own. That's a legal nightmare waiting to happen, complete with lawyers billing hourly rates that'll make your cheap land seem suddenly expensive. Second, services, water, power, internet. Assume you have none of these unless explicitly stated, photographed, and verified by someone who's actually been there recently. Drilling a well can cost $10,000 to $30,000 depending on depth, location, and how many rocks the drilling rig encounters before admitting defeat. Solar panels and battery systems run $20,000 plus for a decent setup that'll keep you from living like a medieval peasant. Internet, Starlink is your only option in remote areas, and it's a $140-month minimum for the privilege of occasionally loading a web page when the satellites align favorably. Third, building permits and regulations. Even in unorganized areas, places where government is more theoretical than practical, there might still be rules. Some provinces require septic system permits because nobody wants untreated sewage contaminating watersheds. Others have setback requirements from water bodies, meaning you can't just build right on the lakeshore no matter how picturesque it seems. And good luck getting a mortgage on raw land. Banks don't love financing your wilderness dream when there's no collateral beyond trees and optimism. Fourth, zoning and future use. Just because you can buy land doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Some areas restrict residential building. Others allow seasonal structures only. Check with the local municipality or regional district before buying, or you'll own dirt you legally can't live on. Fifth, the reality of isolation. Cheap land is cheap for a reason. Nobody else wants to live there. That's great for privacy, terrible for emergencies. Medical care, schools, grocery stores. You're hours away from everything. If that sounds romantic, you haven't experienced it yet. Sixth, climate and environment. These regions aren't harsh because it's fun. They're harsh because nature doesn't care about your Instagram homesteading fantasy. Winters kill the unprepared. Wildlife is real and dangerous. And mosquitoes will make you understand why humans invented cities in the first place. The deals are real. Land at $500 to $1,000 per acre exists in Canada right now. But it's not a fairy tale. It's hard work, careful planning, and accepting that cheap doesn't mean easy. Do your homework. Call the local municipality. Ask about taxes, zoning, and access. Talk to locals if possible. Check Google Earth for terrain and proximity to water. And for the love of all that's holy, visit the property before buying. Don't be the person who buys land sight unseen and discovers it's a swamp with delusions of grandeur. But if you go in smart, if you plan carefully, if you're willing to work and adapt, you can own a piece of Canada for less than a used car. That's not a fantasy, that's reality. And in a country where housing feels impossible, that's something worth fighting for. If you're still here, you're either seriously considering this or avoiding actual work. Either way, don't stop now. Click the next video where we explore off-grid living strategies, or check out our deep dive on building codes in rural Canada. Because owning cheap land is step one. Surviving on it, that's where the real adventure begins.